What's up you guys, and welcome back to another Reddit reading video. We've been getting some comments lately about my reading, and hopefully pretty soon I'll have my braces off next month if we keep our fingers crossed. And also, I'm gonna try reading these stories one at a time and then take a short little break in between so, my mouth can get some time to like re-salivate so I don't have to keep drinking water in between every goddamn paragraph. So hopefully these stories will go better. Let's try and keep the quality great on the stories. Oh yeah, this is Ultimate Revenge Challenge, pettyrevenge, prorevenge, NuclearRevenge. Let's get it. Don't touch Grandpa's OJ. When my grandpa was alive, he owned a house with some property, enough acreage to put some trailers on it, and rented them out. Unfortunately, some tenants can be some real McJerkholes, and a couple of his trailers was full of such jerkholes. You know, the types, noisy, messy, late with the rent, etc. Granddaddy was one of those angels on earth, give you the shirt off his back and everything. He certainly didn't deserve those screws treatment and was still patient with him. The worst thing they did was come into his house, his personal property, and raid his fridge. I absolutely feel if those people needed food help and asked, he would have given it to them. But really, the way my mom tells it, these people were just snacking. And guess what? He didn't do anything about it at all. He just let them come and go and didn't say a word. Until they made the fateful mistake of drinking all of his orange juice. Oh, no. Do not leave no orange juice for my grandpa. It was time to teach a lesson. So without hesitation, he produced a powerful laxative and spiked the next orange juice carton. They tell me it seemed like those people had green apple splatters for 2 days and never raided the fridge again. Ew, green apple splatter? Who describes it like that? Disgusting. Awesome job to Grandpa though for finally standing up for himself. I can't stand when people just tread on people that are like soft-spoken or like aren't aggressive enough to tell people that they want something. That's kind of why I'm friends with introverts too. I'm an extrovert, but then I like having the back of my introvert friends, and I'm like, get off of their back, yo. On to the next story of Pro-Revenge. This was posted only 1 hour ago. Ex-boss tried to screw me on unemployment. I thought I'd celebrate my cake day with my best revenge ever. This is a long story, so just stick with me though. It's worth it, I promise. Backstory, so 20-ish years ago, I worked for a small non-profit. I had worked there for years and loved my job. There was less than 10 employees at any given time I worked there, including the married couple who ran it, and we pretty much always got along. At the same time, I also developed their websites, using a program called NetObjects as a side job. There was no way related to my daily work there. I was paid for the web work as an independent contractor. Well, the couple retired and in comes a new guy, George. I freaking hate George. Before they've even gone, he's just ripping them all over the place for no reason. It's not like they were a threat to him or anything. They had been successfully running this place for years, so they weren't as big of a jerk as he wanted people to believe. He was so toxic about everything. He ended up dividing the office into his buddies and then everyone else. You either kissed his butt or you got junk for it. He would come in and have the most inappropriate conversation about his sexual antics during his college days, how his wife is in bed, how much he could drink and still be okay to drive, etc. A couple of us complained to the board of directors, but they were going to throw out their new executive director over a little smut talk. Shame. I hated watching all the wonderful things we had done as a group die in a slow death under this guy. He didn't like me either, and it got to where I hated going to work every day, so I started looking for other options. I ended up going back to school and doing night classes. I kept it quiet at work though, I didn't tell anyone. It was pretty stressful. I had a young child at the time, and I missed her a lot since I worked all day and went to school nearly every night. I had been making it though, and I was about 3 months from finishing my program. One day, I got called into his office alongside the accountant HR person. He's #1 crony. I knew it was coming, and honestly, I was just relieved. Sure enough, they told me I was being laid off. They gave me a check for 2 weeks' pay with payment in lieu of notice written on the memo, a packet of information about applying for unemployment and education resources, etc. Then they told me I could clear up my desk and leave. They were both smiling at me like they had just given me a bonus. So I responded the same and said, "Oh, this is such a relief. I've been going to night school and everything has been so stressful. Now I'll be able to relax and finish my program without the stress. Thank you." The man turned purple. He was so obviously pissed, I was worried for a second he'd come across the desk. He obviously had expected a different reaction from me. He ground out his teeth that obviously my service as a web developer was no longer needed, and I was not to produce any more work. no skin off my nose. I hadn't figured to continue my web work anymore. Things were brought to a pretty quick close after that, and in less than 15 minutes, I left a place I had worked and loved for years for the last time. So life went on, I continued my classes and filed for unemployment. A few weeks later, I get a notice from my unemployment, got denied. What? The paperwork said I had been fired. Well, that can't be right. So I called the UI office. The nice man I talked to found my case and stated that yes, George's written response did indeed say that I had been fired, making me ineligible for unemployment. I guess George had wanted a little revenge for me not giving him a reaction he wanted. I told the man about my packet and my check. He asked me to send copies of everything I had and would open an appeal. He said with the check memo, it was obvious I hadn't been fired and it would be straightforward appeal. But it would still take a few more weeks, and in the meantime, I have no income. Not long after, maybe a few days, I get a call from George. He says I have a new web developer, and they need my files in order to maintain the database. Otherwise, they would have to rebuild it from the ground up, and that would be crazy expensive for them. I told him all the files were uploaded to the web server. They have everything. He kept making comments about me withholding their property, and rather than try to explain the internet to this moron, I told him, fine, I would mail them the CD of the files right away. I went to my computer and got their website on my internet. I saved the entire thing to an HTML file, put it on a CD, and mailed it off. A couple days later, I got another call. He says he got the CD, but it's not what he needed. I told him the entire website was on that CD, but it wasn't good enough. They wanted my working files, and this time they had given him instructions about what to ask for. See, at NetObjects, you created everything you wanted for your website. You had to publish your creation, and it would make the HTML files. So I basically had NetObjects file that was their website, and without that file, you weren't going to do anything to that website. But that file is huge, and it wouldn't fit on a CD. It needed to be backed up to be compressed, then I could send it to him. I told him it would take me a bit of time, and I've just been crazy busy lately dealing with my appeal. Did you know my unemployment was denied? He played dumb, like he didn't do that on purpose. So I asked him if I could possibly get help in that situation straightened out, because if that one on my plate, I'd have all the time in the world to get him the files he needs. Of course, he's happy to help. Right. We get off the phone, and a little bit later, the nice gentleman from the UI office called me. He told me that George had called him and told him I was not fired, that he must have put in the wrong paperwork for me. They made him rectify in writing that he had faxed them the correct statement. So my unemployment was approved, and I was going to be getting my first check, including my back payments, within a week. Woo! Then George called me again. He said he'd gotten everything straightened out with him, and could I please run the backup ASAP and overnight the CD to them. I'm sorry, running a backup would constitute producing more work, and I don't work for you any longer. And I hung up. Never heard from him again. But less than a year later, he was fired and it was taken over by a management company. Oh my goodness, that is some good revenge right there. That guy got totally screwed, and he totally deserved that. What really sucks is that it was kind of a lose-lose, because she really, or he, I'm not sure, was that a girl or a boy, they really loved that job before, you can tell by how they described it and their managers and all that. And then like new management can make or break a job, really. Like anyone that's worked in like retail or like, you know, minimum wage or any kind of job like that where management is right next to you can honestly tell you that working with bad management can make you quit off the rip. Proud of this young fella for getting their good revenge though. What do you think? Was that pro revenge? Was that a pro move? I feel like yes, that was a pro move. The last one, actually, now that I think about it, the last story wasn't that petty. He kind of deserved to do that to them. Number 1, screw toxic managers. Number 2, on to the next story. Nuclear revenge time. Entitled engineer makes a mistake he will regret for the rest of his life. This is a story that I thankfully didn't witness, but my coworker did. An engineer relocated with his wife to a small town while he supervised a local engineering project. He had 3 daughters who lived in the neighboring city and would visit him constantly. While he wasn't exactly rich, he was considerably wealthier than the average habitant of his little town. This made him and his wife extremely entitled. He would do as he pleased and then bribe the police to avoid repercussions. He made himself infamous for cheating on his wife constantly. One day, he laid his eyes on a local 18-year-old girl. The girl didn't like him back, so she rejected him. One day, he got drunk and forced himself on the poor girl. He hurt her so bad. The girl was left in a wheelchair for life. The girl's father tried to bring him to justice, but the engineer used whatever money he had to bribe the police. What not many people knew is this girl's uncle was a local drug lord. The father and the uncle hadn't spoken for years, and the girl hadn't even met her uncle. But when the drug lord learned what happened to his niece, he decided he would have his revenge. A few weeks later, my coworker was working as a gardener for the engineer when the cries of a young woman caught everyone's attention. Outside the engineer's house were drug lord's men who had captured the engineer's daughter in front of the engineer and his wife. The men used machetes to cut off the daughter's legs. There was blood everywhere, but the worst was the cries of the 3 women. They were rushed to the hospital, but 2 of them bled to death on the way, while the 3rd was left, obviously wheelchair bound for life. While my coworker has since left the town, he says people told him the engineer's wife hasn't said a single word since that day. Edit, people have asked me for news coverage on this event. This story happened on the opening years of the drug war in northern Mexico, a time with both the government and the drug lords did everything within their power to keep the news like this from being published. I will try to find some and ask my coworker, but I can't promise anything. Oh man, that sucks. While that was happening, I was thinking this cannot be in the US. Like, there's no way you could get away with something like that. But man, it's a bad day to be that guy's daughter. Like, yeah, it was revenge and yeah, it was nuclear, but they got the revenge like on the wrong person. Why didn't they do it to the dad? Jeez, it's kind of actually a sad story. Like, it's crazy that stuff kind of happens. I'm not gonna lie, I was trying to, word around some of the things they were saying so we could get monetized. By the end of that, with cutting off people's stuff, I don't think this video is getting monetized. Anyways, I read the story for you. So if you like it, hit the like and subscribe. Comment down below if you thought that was nuclear. Like, I really think that was nuclear. I hope I see you guys next time, and goodbye, my lovelies.